Hi, guys. Welcome to our third episode of Deep Dives in the Desert. And I'm so excited to have Sherri Divband on our episode as well. So, welcome, Sherri.
Oh, I am honored to be your third guest and on your new show. And I just want to say, I love the title, Deep Dives in the Desert. Like, amazing.
Thank you.
I love the title.
Thank you.
Good. My mom actually came up with it. We couldn't figure out a name. And she's like, why not just Deep Dives in the Desert? I was like, oh, that's different. So, yeah, it's a good
I love
one.
it.
Thanks.
So we brought you here so that you can discuss your brand new book, which we have both been reading, Courage to Change. And you want to pull it up so that we can show people it's available on Amazon. Is it available anywhere else, Sherri?
Not yet. It will be available on Barnes & Noble. I haven't gotten around to it yet.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
But it will be.
Yes, it actually just came out, Courage to Change the Freedom Movement, The Fall of the Dark Players, Dismantling the 3D Grid, and the Grand Rising of Humanity. So if you guys haven't gotten it yet, definitely get it because it's so good.
Oh, it is. It's good.
We do that a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then we're going to show your website too. And we were talking before we started to record. Go ahead, you can pull it up. We were talking before that my daughter, my 14-year-old daughter, has taken classes as well as my grandsons. So if you want to scroll down a little bit, it kind of shows.
I still have the old book on there. I haven't even put the new one on there yet.
Yeah, that one was
how
good.
behind I am.
Some classes and stuff. So
yeah, definitely check it out, guys. It's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yep. All right.
Okay, so we are excited to talk to you about it. Like I said, we both were reading your book and we found it so interesting. So we're going to kind of just dive in if that's okay. And we're going to start asking you some of the questions from it. So the first one that I had was, you said that there's a difference. Oh, that's not the one I wanted to start with. I wanted to start with this one. You spoke about why we incarnate as humans. Aside from an individual's personal reasons, why did we choose this as a collective?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think the answer right now is very different than it would have been many years ago, hundreds and thousands of years ago, because you said it right. I think our initial reason was to have an experience here within this reality as a human being, for a lot of reasons, to grow as an individual soul, to learn lessons, to have experiences and a lot of different things, and to come in with your soul family and play different roles, what it's like to be a mother, what it's like to be a child, all of these things, even what it's like to feel like to be a victim or to be the aggressor, all sorts of reasons we come in. But recently, I think, as Dolores Cannon talked about, a lot of people are coming in for a very specific purpose, because the trajectory of the human species took a dark turn thousands of years ago with what I refer to as the dark players. And what I mean by the dark players is just a term that I use to sum up a collection of people and dark entities and kind of an energy of control that this planet has been under for thousands of years. There are words we can use, but I don't like to use those words because I don't want your channel or anyone's channel get taken down, but people know what they are. Some start with C or an I. So I just call on the dark players. And the dark players have really manipulated humanity and degressed our evolution. So that's why we are going into this ascension period, which we are already in it, really. So the starseeds that are volunteering to come in right now, they need to incarnate as a human being, because what happens is when you embody a human form, your soul comes through, your frequency is very strong. See, they agree. And we need that. We need that frequency. It's okay. Everyone loves animals. And if you don't, you should be watching this. So we need people of high frequency to combat the low frequency grid that we're in, often referred to as the matrix. In my books, I refer to it as the box. And we are contained within this box of control, the matrix, with a set of parameters. And we're controlled through programming, manipulation, and the many things that I call 3D interference and 3D influence. So how do we combat that? How do we win in a game that is really set against us? There isn't a way to win with the set of parameters that we are working with, at least historically. So the way that we gain back our sovereignty and control is by having high frequency starseeds come in a human body. And then as they come through the birth portal and actually come into this atmosphere, to this reality or to this matrix, they impact the frequency, the low frequency grid, and they start to disrupt it, and they start to poke holes in the box, is the metaphor that I use. And that's how you slowly break down the matrix over time. And then on top of that, while you're here, your soul is continuously receiving a feed from your frequency, from your star group, your galactic group, like a cosmic energy that integrates with the human energy, which is where we get the grounding from. And the combination of the two is exceptional. And that causes the breakdown and the distortion of the 3D grid and the matrix. And we need to be in the human form so that we can anchor our human body here while we facilitate grid work and shifting the frequency, and also impacting other people around us that may be trapped. So our frequency is continuously being given out, like our auric field. And that influences the world around us. It influences other people in a positive way. It influences the environment. And it, like I said, it distorts and disrupts the negative frequencies. So we're more powerful in the human form. That's why so many people volunteer to come in. Otherwise, it would be so easy for us as souls to say, I'll just hang out in the etherical realm, and I'll send energy here and there, and I'll help you, but I'm going to be up here. I'm not going to come in the game with you. And I believe that's what angels are, spirit guides. That, you know, we've had those helpers and guides and mentors for as long as we've been in existence as humans. The problem is that there's only so much they can do. And the more closed off we are and the more programmed we have become throughout the generations, we forgot about them, or we don't believe that they're there, or we don't know how to communicate. We've lost the communication. The signal is not working. So now they're like, well, now what do we do? So they say, all right, I'll volunteer to come in to play the game. And while I'm in that body, I can do more work here. So that's where ancestral healing comes through, grid working, shifting the ley lines, and contributing to the collective in many different ways. Does that make sense?
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible, actually. I mean, it's like, I don't know, you don't give it that much thought, I guess, before you kind of go into it, but you can see how it's just an incredible, I don't even know the right word. Wow.
Yeah. I'm at a loss for words.
I'm just like, and I'm distracted. Okay, so we're babysitting my son's cat, but that's not him. That's actually her cat, who totally knows better than to do that right now. And because I am busy, he's sitting. I'm like, get your cat.
They're not allowed on the counter.
He's acting out.
Yeah, he's like, you're distracted. Let me get on the counter. Anyway, sorry. Okay, go ahead. You want to ask one of yours?
Yes. So in your new book, Courage to Change, you mentioned that starseeds are born with advanced DNA. So could you explain a little bit more on what exactly is affected or different with that?
Yeah, that's a good question. And it's more of a sliding scale, actually. How I understand it is that over time, our DNA has been activating and shifting. So we've all heard of junk DNA, and I think that the dark players want us to believe that it is in essence just junk. It just doesn't. We don't need that. No need to look there. It's like behind the curtain, like behind the ropes. It's not really a big deal. When in reality, they know that the dormant DNA, which is what I call it, the junk DNA as they refer to it, is simply our genetic codes that have been deactivated throughout many lifetimes of genetic modification and epigenetics. So they have modified us in a way that we are more conducive to programming and in that slave system. So we don't think for ourselves. We follow the leader. We have deactivated the pineal gland in many cases, in many generations. We've lost our connection with our intuition, our imagination. So we're more left brain focused, which I talk about in the book. And we've lost the right brain connection, which is the intuition, the creativity. So I believe over time that junk DNA is our innate gifts that have been deactivated. So over time, as people start to activate and awaken in many different ways, through epiphanies, through near-death experiences, simply just by waking up spontaneously right now, which is happening a lot, by watching podcasts like yours. It's so great that you guys are doing this, because you never know who is going to come across this particular episode or any other episode that you're doing. And then, wow, that you change their whole life simply by certain things that are said. So all of these things are causing people like us to activate the dormant DNA that is our consciousness. So as we elevate in our consciousness, our density of consciousness elevates, we are able to bring more of our light through into these bodies that are anchored in 3D. And now there's this beautiful activation occurring in all of us, which we refer to it as activation or ascension symptoms, or going from carbon to crystalline. There's all these different ways to describe that our bodies are changing from more carbon-based, low frequency to a more crystalline-based, high frequency. So this is the transition that has been occurring for, I would say, really strongly in the last 50 years, when the indigos started to come in. And then the younger indigos, which is me, I'm a younger indigo, came. Then we have the crystals. And each generation that's come through, I believe that they have a little bit more of that DNA unlocked, the junk DNA, the dormant DNA. So that's why we're seeing children more and more throughout the generations are more psychic, are more aware, are more intuitive. They're so wise. They are different. They think differently. They're more compassionate, loving. You can see gradually this shift is occurring. So when people hear me say the DNA is changed, I want them to look at it more as like characteristics and abilities that are actually changing. And of course, throughout that, our epigenetics change and our physiology starts to adapt to a higher frequency as well. So the newer and newer generations coming through have more and more of that DNA unlocked. So they are way different. They are more highly psychic, more highly in tune. But the downside is that they are seemingly struggling more with health concerns. I have so many clients that are diagnosed with or mislabeled with ADHD, Asperger's, autism, or they have actual autoimmune disorders. They have seizures. They have neurological conditions, developmental delays. All of that is a combination of, one, high frequency beings coming in and trying to adapt with that 3D body. And it's like, whoa, there's a lot of disconnects. Short circuiting is happening. And it's really just a high frequency energy trying to integrate with a low frequency body. And there's an integration process that's occurring. So some bodies struggle more and more than someone else, because maybe their genetics, their family lineage is a little bit stronger. Some are not. So that's a big part of it. But another aspect of it is just that they are here to change the dynamics, change how we speak, change how we walk, change how we act, change how we think. So there's a lot of that going on, which is misinterpreted as hyperactive or autistic, when in reality they're actually more advanced than we are. But to us, they look like they are less than, that they are not normal, when in reality they're so much more advanced. But we are misperceiving that based on comparing them to what we think is normal, or what we're told is normal. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we have an autistic.
My niece is autistic.
And she's about 6 years old, and she's not completely nonverbal. She'll repeat some words. She's gotten better over the last year or so talking, but she's very smart. But she does, when you were talking about not making a lot of eye contact, she does a little bit. Although I have to say, like, both of her parents, she definitely makes eye contact with me. She's always, like, if I'll talk to her or stuff, she'll walk right up to me and she puts her hands like on my legs and like look at me and she'll say, she'll go, grandma, to me. But yeah, she's sweet. But she's very smart. And she started, it's like she can't string a bunch of stuff together, but she can say words. Like, she'll point to what, like, she knew her colors early, her alphabet, and all of those things. But it's interesting. I always wondered, like, what her reason or purpose was for kind of coming into my son and his wife. And I don't know, it's interesting.
They have a purpose. There's no accident with anything. Everything is done with intention. So you said she came in with two objectives or agendas or two purposes or more, but the two minimum there is to affect your family in a way, and perhaps your son, her father or her mother needed her to come into their life to be a part of their awakening and their transition and your families. But they also come in to teach the world something new, a new way of living, a new way of thinking. So they're not going to looking. I actually talked to a parent the other day, and she said the way that she tries to calm her daughter down is by holding her gently on her shoulders, getting down to her level and saying, look at mommy in my eyes, look at mommy in my eyes. And she says, this is my way of trying to calm her down. And she said, I don't understand why she's freaking out. And I said, listen, you have to understand or understand. I try to say that more. When you are working with vibrant starseed children who are high frequency and very connected, the last thing that you want to tell them is to look in your eyes, because that actually is going to make them more nervous, and they are going to do the opposite of calm down. And we're not saying that to hurt your feelings. You might be a wonderful mother. It's nothing about you. It's the fact that when they look eye to eye, it's the window to the soul. There's a reason we say that. They see through everything. They see through this barrier of the face, and they see all the things that mom's worried about in that moment, everything that she's thinking, all the truths, all the lies, all the fears. And they see it in energy. They see it in words. They see it with visions. They see entities. They see everything, and they also see the dark. So if someone has dark entities around them, they're going to see that too. It's like us going outside, and everyone we come up to is completely naked, and we're like, I don't need to see that. The nudist colony, and you're used to it. Like, we're not used to that. I don't want to see you naked. And that's kind of like what it is for children, but just 10 times more overwhelming. So it's not that they're trying to teach us not to look at each other. That's the opposite. What they're trying to say is, hey, when you're more in tune and you're more aware, you guys don't believe how much you're missing when you talk to someone face to face, because we only see what I only see what you want me to see, because I can read your thoughts. I can't see the demons around you. I don't know what your fears are if I'm just talking to you face to face. I only know the words that are coming out of your mouth and the tone. And the more sensitive people are, maybe you can dig deeper and say, oh, her energy is off or good or whatever it may be. They see 10 layers beyond that. So right now they're just like, hold on a second, I'm really overwhelmed. So give me a second. And I don't think I want to look in your eyes. I want to look at you, but not at you, directly at you. I'll look in your direction. So we got to give them time to acclimate, because they're the ones overwhelmed, and we don't need them to adapt to our way. We need them to adapt enough so that they can be in this life and integrate to some degree, but they're really just preparing us for what we're leveling up. So soon we are going to be where they are, and we're going to see way more. And I think people are already doing that. Like, I've leveled up so much that sometimes I can't even talk to somebody new that I've just met at the store or something, because I'm like, I feel very uncomfortable. I may not know exactly what they're thinking, but I know enough. And I'm like, I need to get away from this person. And I'm sitting here thinking, as a 43-year-old woman, I'm just now learning this. Can you imagine what it's like for a 4-year-old or a 6-year-old who doesn't have the tools yet to even comprehend what's going on and to deal with that? It's a lot. So your grandchildren, if anyone's watching this that are different than their children, or maybe your children that are different than other people's children, depending on your age, the children are coming in being labeled as autistic and nonverbal for a reason, because they are trying to break us out of our loop and prepare us for what's coming next, which is actually a beautiful thing, but it can be scary to those that don't understand it.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah, that's interesting. And I know that they're going to be watching because I've sent my daughter-in-law some of your stuff. So she's interested, and she's sharing it in autism groups that she's in for mothers and things like that, because she wants, these people to be able to see it too. Yeah. In your book also, you mentioned something that you called the void. And I was just wondering if you could explain what that is and if it's always existed.
Good question. I can't tell you if it's always existed. That's a good question. I don't like to pretend like I know more than I do. I think that it has not. Okay, first of all, what I should start with, there are many interpretations of the void. There's more than one void. So I'm referring to the negative void. And I think the negative void was created by the dark players in this 3D reality, in this planet. So there is likely a similar void in other places that has always existed. I don't know for sure, but I think that the one I'm referring to is the one connected to this matrix, this reality. And the only reason I know about it is because I learn about it through my sessions with children who are here in this life to be in a human body so that they can anchor their frequency here. But while they're sleeping and then they're in the astral realm, they are actually in the void, fighting to rescue lost souls. So that's how I know about it. Otherwise, I would have not known about it. So what the void is it's an interdimensional space. It's in between. Imagine a very thin layer in between levels, kind of like, you know, a piece of paper in between two rooms. So it's very thin. It really doesn't, it's not really strong. And you know what I mean? Like it's a very thin barrier. So not a wall, but like a thin piece of paper. And it's not it's not a place. It's just a void in between two dimensions. And what happens is that this is so hard to explain quickly, but as part of the entrapment system, the recycling system, the reincarnation system that we have in the 3D, that was started by the dark players to, when someone dies, to trap them in that reincarnation wheel. Because we have free will to reincarnate, of course, but they found a way using technology in a lot of different ways that I don't even understand. It's way above my understanding, to figure out how to trap souls when they died in a traumatic way. Murder, suicide, genocide, war, enslavement, whatever it may be. When somebody died in a traumatic way, they were able to generate a false light system using a magnetic frequency. And when the soul crosses over, instead of going to their soul origin or to home, whatever heaven means to them, they're trapped, or they're tricked rather, and there's this magnetic pull because of their trauma, and it pulls them into the void. And then they're in, instead of heaven, let's just use heaven as the term, instead of heaven, now they're in this holding space, and their souls are trapped there. And a lot of people have been there in their nightmares, and they're like, it's dark, I hear people screaming, there's no time, I feel trapped, I'm scared, I'm cold, I'm hungry, I'm everything, and all at the same time. So they're just kind of floating there without a body, and they're waiting. They don't know they're waiting, but they're being held there until whoever is in charge of that demographic says, all right, I need one to go here. And then they assign someone in that soul group. All right, you're going to be enslaved. You're going to be trafficked. You're going to be whatever. You're going to be in poverty. You're going to be in this war, because they're players that they need. So this void has been going on for thousands of years, probably since the fall of Atlantis. Has a lot of reptilian energy, a lot of extraterrestrial energy, and a lot of technology that is beyond our scope, or at least my scope of understanding. So what does that mean? I don't want to scare anybody, because the good news about this, and the only reason I even know about it, is because I've been told 5 years ago that at least that it stopped happening before anyone in this lifetime incarnated. So the only people that are still somewhat, if they even are connected to it in any way, are people that are roughly in their 80s and 90s. But they've still escaped it. There's a minute aspect of them that might have just been in it before that incarnation, if that makes sense. But anyone after that has been born since has been freed of that. But there are still souls that are just left there that haven't been used. And there are many starseeds that are warrior spirits that are rescuing the souls that are left in the void, not to bring them here to incarnate, to take them back to source to heal, or to go to their soul origin, their planet of origin, or wherever it is that they're choosing to go, or a holding space that I've been told is like a cocoon of healing, where a lot of them go to receive an abundance of healing, or they just get recycled back into source because they're too fragmented. So it's very complicated. I'm trying to simplify it as best I can. But no one's trapped there anymore. And if anybody has a soul member of their family that's trapped there, they're likely already have been rescued from there. So I put it in my book so that people are aware that this is what has happened to many people. And that is why, to go back to your very first question, why do people incarnate as human beings that are starseeds, that are ascended and volunteer to descend to come here in a lower vibrational planet? For that reason is one of them. Two, they've been rescuing souls for the last few generations.
It's incredible.
Wow. That speechless again.
I think I think in that book, that the second book that Tony Rodriguez did with Jackie, I believe that they were speaking about a space in that book, the Star Maker one.
They were.
Sounds very similar to that, right?
I told him that too. Yeah, I said, Tony, I think that what you were describing there was the void. Isn't that crazy? We talked about it briefly, I think, at some point. But yeah, that's exact. That as soon as I read that, I was like, oh, that he was in the void.
Yeah, that's incredible. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No worries. I know you had mentioned also our shadow side. So could you explain exactly like what that is and expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, that's really important. So I talked about that in my first book back in 2017, I think it was. The shadow side is really important. So going back to just being a human being and having the left brain hemisphere, which is our reptilian brain, our very primal survival mode part of us, the avatar, the connection to the body. And the soul has to share space with the body that operate in that operating system, if that makes sense. So the shadow side is the survival side. The ego is the ego and the shadow are the same thing. But the problem is the ego, when the ego is manipulated and programmed within a 3D reality of survival and fear and manipulation and dis-ease and struggle and war and genocide and all of these horrible things, the ego becomes very centered in competition. Oh, it's either me or you. And that's why we have this competitive, humanity can be quite competitive. We're always looking at the other person as, I'm in competition with you in some way. My religion is better than yours. Women are better than men. I'm more beautiful than you. I have a bigger house than you. Like the most ridiculous thing. I have more education. It's always competition. That is the ego. And so it is important. We need the ego. And that's why I refer to it as the nemesis in my book, because it's the part of us that we get hung up on. It's the part of us that will second guess every decision we make. It will create confusion and conflict in our mind, because it's like, well, I want to change the education system. And then my nemesis, my ego, will be like, oh, Sherri, you can't do that. Oh, you know how much money that's going to cost, and you know how much work that's going to be, and are you sure you can do it? All the things that we think, the negative thought comes from our ego, which I call the nemesis, and that's the shadow side. But everything is about balance. We are equipped with that shadow side for a reason, because we do need to be logical about decisions we make in our life as well, and we do need to have that primal aspect of us, because if someone is trying to murder us, we need to be able to pick up and fight for our life, or not so dramatic, because we're not cavemen anymore, and we're not like being chased by a saber tooth. But imagine the parent that's a single parent, and they're fighting for their children to be able to eat and have a roof over their head, and she or he is constantly working all these jobs and survival, running around and feeling in fear. That she or he would be very tapped into the dark side, the shadow side, the being in lack of worry, resentment, judgment, and that's where the downside of that is that's where the dark players hook into us. That's where the programming works. That's where the voice of God technology works. That's where the dark portals work. If they can put us in that vibration where we are more on the shadow side of, I'm going to fight you because it's either me or you, or I hate you, or I hate all men, or I hate all women, whatever is keeping us and driving us in there, that's where they want us. If the scale is on this side or this side, they want us to be more on the shadow side, because the more we are on the shadow side, the more the matrix thrives, the more loosh we give off, which is their food, and the more the programming works, the more this whole reality works for them. So we need, in my opinion, based on all the experience that I have, all the years I've been working with clients, I think we need to have a nice balance of both. You need to be able to become friends with your shadow side, because you need to know that you have the capability of tapping in when necessary. Like, I have come a long way. I had a very strong shadow side. I'm very open about it. I won't get into it now, but I was very dark at one point, and I hated people, and I was ready to fight. I raced cars. I didn't care if I died, and probably didn't care if I killed anyone by accident if I crashed. I was just angry all the time. That wasn't good for me. So I've 20 years or so of healing. Now I'm very much dominant in the light side of me, the right brain, the intuition, that part of me. But I still need the other part, because don't get me wrong. If someone were to try to hurt me or my family, in 1 second, I would be like, I will hurt you. You know what I mean? Like, we need that. So don't mistake kindness for weakness. Like, I could be bad if I need to be, I just don't push it out of me. And, but it's there in case of emergency, break glass type of situation, but it shouldn't be your go-to. But a majority of the population, that is their go-to. They're ready to fight. They're ready to push someone down to get ahead. And they're not thinking from a place of balance and unity. So do you see? So we need both, but it's about balancing. It's learning to balance.
How do you see that demonstrated in the truther community, and how do we come to a different place with it? Because I think it's important to be kind of strong in convictions and, strong like steel, as far as, not being willing to tolerate some of the things from the dark players that you talk about that we see. We have to be able to stand up for it, but also not lose our ability to have compassion and to realize that, it always strikes me when people talk about the things that they've discovered in their awakening, and it just seems like there's not a lot of room for other not ideas, but if I come to a conclusion that's looks a little bit different than your conclusion, it seems like, with all of these people that are trying to move in a positive way, to find that we're still dealing with that in this community, I guess, is how do we get past that?
Yeah, that is probably the most important question that you asked, and I don't have the answer for it. But what I'll tell you is, I am disappointed at the trajectory that the truther community has gone in the last 5 years. And somebody, I don't, and the way I remain in integrity is I don't take sides, never have. You can watch any video I've ever done 5-10 years ago, any books. I never talk bad about anybody. I have my opinions. I'll tell my family, but I don't do drama. I just, that's what they want. So I know what they want, and I'm able to go out of that energy and just look as a neutral party. And I step back. I don't get involved. And I'm very, very serious about this. I have taken myself out of so many groups that people can look back, and I was in a lot of different groups. I was on a lot of different networks, being interviewed by so many people. And you don't see me being interviewed by 70% of them anymore. And that is because, for one reason or another, I decided to pull myself away because there were reasons for it. So the sad thing is, about 5 or 6 years ago, I heard a truther say publicly in an interview, 90% of the people that you are watching are liars and false prophets. And this empath in me, the one that wants to believe that humanity is good, and who has come a long way in what my beliefs are, I was like, ew, how rude. Like, I got mad at this person. And no, I didn't tell anybody. I mean, I told my husband. I tell my poor husband hears all of it. But he goes in one ear and out the other because he doesn't even know how half these people. He's just like, I don't know. And I'm like, good. I just need to vent. But my point is that I was just like, how dare she? Like, how dare she talk like that? Because then it caused a ripple effect for a lot of people. And they're like, okay, so I don't know who to trust. And I was like, well, so was that person right? Kinda. But there's a way to handle it. You have to have, I believe, and this might be my old school mentality, I believe you should have grace and dignity. I still like no matter what. So you should always operate yourself where you could watch yourself 10, 15 years later and look back and not be embarrassed by your behavior. And I live by that. I actually do. So everything I do is calculated, everything I say, how I represent myself, and who I talk to and who I allow into my life. That doesn't mean that if I do an interview with someone and then later on they end up being not who they said they were. Sometimes I don't see it until it's too late, but it's okay. It's part of the growth. So my long-winded explanation here is I think that there are a lot of people that are being paid by the dark players to come in and infiltrate. And we're seeing that a lot in the secret space community. And there's a lot of fights going on. And there are a lot of those people saying, well, this is my story. And anything that goes against that is you're wrong. I'm right. You're wrong. I see a lot of that. How are we going to evolve as a conscious community or a collective if we're finger pointing? Because I don't believe that there is any one truth, because it falls into perception. So I might be 100%. I'm like, I know this is how it is. This is how I see it. And I could be so strong in my convictions. But you know what? So can someone else, and it be completely different than mine. Who's right? No one is actually right, and no one is wrong. It's all about your perception based on a lot of variables that people don't think about. So instead of fighting with everybody, I just feel like we present the information that we know, or people like yourselves, you allow people to come on your platform and present what they know. And then people need to listen with an open mind and open heart. And if it resonates with them, great, you keep listening. If somebody doesn't resonate with you, instead of fighting and starting a war and being really mean about it, and I hate them, how about we just turn the channel and say, I don't want to listen to them anymore. So I think this is part of our growth. I think that we are having this experience so that we grow and trust our intuition, so that if someone seems off, we have to trust that.
Yeah, I think, I wrote about that in my book too, is that I was talking about, it's also plausible that if we are co-creators of our realities, it could look different, right? Because if you write a fiction book and I write a fiction book and Em writes a fiction book, and we all decide that we're going to do it on the same topic, it's still going to be very different when we are developing our characters and we're developing the worlds that they live in and the situations that happen. And we could still all have, a war in space, but it could still be very, very different. And so what I mean by that is, I guess, just that if we're creating our reality now, who am I to say that what you're experiencing isn't true? You're co-creating, and so yours is going to look different than mine. And it doesn't make you wrong and me right. It's just that we're all have that ability to create for ourselves. So, it's going to be different. And I guess I struggle when somebody says they have this absolute knowing of this is what it is. And, I don't know. I hope we can work through that, because like you, I try not to get involved in the judgment aspects of it and stay as neutral as I can and just objective. But I hope we all get there, because I think if anyone can, it's this community. And I'd love to see it, because there's so many really great people in it. And I don't know, we'll see what happens, but I hope everyone can just give everyone the grace and space to use their own discernment.
And stay in your heart space too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And just to throw a little side note here, I do also think that there are starseed implants that are not working for the dark, but they're the antagonists. Like, they're playing the role of, I'm going to purposely say the opposite of you So I want to see how your ego is handling it. So let's say there was someone like me that did similar work, and she was out there saying, oh, Sherri doesn't know what she's talking about, and like bad mouthing me. How do I know that she isn't some sort of antagonist that I signed up to have in my life, so that I can test, like, see how am I going to respond to that? Like, am I going to get so ego driven and arrogant and be like, and then want to fight and debate her? That shows that I have more growing to do.
Yeah.
And I've been there. So I've had that test many times. That's why I'm using that example. And I've gotten to the point now where I can stand firmly and say, I could look at them and I say, I just don't care. Like, not to be rude, but I don't care to debate you.
Right,
so
right.
I feel like that is at least the end goal. Like, you don't have to, how you handle it with grace and dignity, and I think if we can just get there where we can agree to disagree and not debate, that's it. Like, there isn't any final answer. I think it's just to treat each other with respect.
I love
And
that.
That's
agree.
that's the goal.
I love that. Yeah. Okay. That's great. And then I have another question for you from your book. You talked about what you discovered anxiety is. Can you share what you found out about anxiety?
Yeah, this is a really important question too. So anxiety is an ambiguous term to represent anyone's fears or worry, sadness, shame, guilt, resentment, represented in a way where you're having a physiological response, which is the anxiety. So anxiety is different for everybody. But I think that the anxiety is heightened right now because our bodies are so intelligent, and we are built in with this autonomic nervous system for a reason. Our bodies are designed so incredible, regardless of how much they have deprogrammed us and changed our DNA and deactivated. Our physiology is still top notch. I mean, we people have no idea how incredible our bodies are. And one of those things is the autonomic nervous system. It's our built-in alarm system. All our homes have the carbon monoxide readers and the fire alarms, right? It's our built-in alarm system. So when our bodies are in fight or flight, and we have heart palpitations and sweating and nervousness and stomach aches, all of the anxiety symptoms, it's our body's way of saying, hello, stop consenting, and you need to make a change, because the road you're going down right now is going to lead to dis-ease, acute illness, dis-ease, and chronic illness, and death possibly. And so I think anxiety actually is a good thing right now. We need to reverse our thinking and saying, oh, I need to go to the doctor and get this pill so I can numb my anxiety. You have to get to the root cause and recognize that our bodies are telling. That's why the anxiety is off the charts right now, all over the world, children and adults and pets, because I think our bodies are doing what they're supposed to do. They're trying to get our attention and say something is not right. Get off your couch, stop drinking, stop watching Netflix with all your free time. Nothing against Netflix. I watch movies. I still drink here and there. I'm not judging anybody. I'm just saying that we tend to overdo it. We tend to go in extremes. So we have to pay attention and say, this isn't working anymore. I'm not happy in my life as a collective, and I'm tired of being programmed and brainwashed, and I want something different. So the anxiety is like a little poke, and it's like, I'm going to get so annoyed. I'm going to annoy you so much that you need to get up and do something about it. And unfortunately, we are programmed to take that pill so that it suppresses the anxiety. And we think, sweet, now I could keep drinking. Now I could keep, partying all the time and be numb. And that we're missing the mark. So I wrote this chapter in my book to say to people, listen, if you have anxiety, look at it this way and think to yourself, what am I doing in my life that I'd like to change? Why am I resisting? And what can I do better? Getting out of the loops and the patterns and all of those things. So I think anxiety is almost a 3D virus. It's telling us that we need change.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and I agree that it seems like you hear everyone speaking about it, now on some level. So it makes sense. It definitely makes sense. Did you have another question too?
Yes, I wrote all mine down. You spoke about our ego playing a role in what we do and how we think. So I know you spoke briefly about the nemesis, but could you tell us a little bit more about how the ego plays into that as well? I know you touched on it a little bit, but
Yeah, no, I can expand. If you think in 3D terms and dark players, I think that they have, what's the word I'm trying to think of? They have, through manipulation, programming, and what's the word? I can't think of the word, but over time, I think that they have pushed the ego so much that it's become such a big part of us that we're making all of our decisions from the egoic standpoint. That's why we have such an egocentric collective of people that are. That's why I was talking about. They're more competitive based. We have less empathy. The more you, like I talked about in the shadow side, the more in the shadow side you are, the less empathy you have. So empathy is over here, shadow side, dark side is over here. You don't care about how you hurt or affect anyone, any decision you make. So that's what I started talking about, sociopaths and psychopaths and the difference there, and mental illness. That's a lot of people that are trapped in the shadow side, the dark side, and the ego has now taken full control. They have full reins, and they are thinking selfishly. And so there's a lack of empathy and compassion that has taken over this humanity. And I think that the indigos, which I talked about a little bit in the beginning, the indigos came in having the ego, but brought in more of the right brain. So those are the parents, the 40s, no, sorry, 50s to 70s right now. And then the second wave of indigos, which are in their 30s and 40s right now, they came in equipped with a little bit more control over the ego so that they are more expansive, more imaginative, but they're still rebels and they're still change makers, and they don't conform to the box of society. And then the crystals come in that are in their teens, 20s, and even there's always going to be overlap and into their early 30s, that are the wave of compassion frequency. So they went through the collective and they're like, all right, they don't have ego. Or they do. Everyone has it. I misspoke. Their ego is so in check. Any crystal you'll ever met, you'll know immediately because they're the nicest, sweetest, most compassionate. I just did a post on this recently. And my son, my oldest son, to a T. He gets along with everyone. He's very charismatic. He's never met somebody that didn't like him. He's not trying to fluff. He's not trying to show off. He's just naturally just pleasant to be around, and he loves everyone, and he's compassionate. He's humble. Humble is the key word there. So we needed that wave to come in to add more to the other side of the ego side. Now we have the right brain. So now we're navigating more heavily on the right brain side. And then where we are now, Emma, is what I said is now we're going back to balance everything, because we had a huge influx of extreme non-ego, humble, kind, compassionate beings. But we can't, if we kept going in that way and everyone coming in was that way, then we wouldn't get anything done. And we need a balance of all personalities. We need the leaders, we need the followers, we need everything. So now we're back into the balance. So the ego is now a big player, but it's in less control.
We just had I have a new grandbaby. She was born in June, and I can't wait to see, she came to one of my other sons. So yeah, we're really excited. We have the one I was telling you about, my little Ellie. We call her Ellie Bell. Her name's Elisa Bella, but she's the one that's autistic. And now we just got Noelia. So it's very exciting. We got all these little babies in our family. I have like 7 grandkids already. So
I love that. That's amazing. I love my children, but I always say I can't wait till you guys have babies, and I just want to.
It's so fun.
Yeah,
it's so fun.
And those are just from my brothers too.
My girls haven't started. Obviously, Gigi's only 14, and Em hasn't started her family yet. So it'll be fun. It'll be interesting to see. So before we wrap up on your book, because we have so many more things, I just wanted to mention too that you had covered in there Ascension symptoms and creating boundaries and doing energetic grids and stuff. And then you even have some meditations and stuff included in it. So we have been enjoying reading it so much. Thank you for putting this information out there. And we highly recommend your book. It's amazing. And we actually, Emma's been reading the last two in tandem. She's kind of like, and she was going, oh, that was mentioned in this one, and now it's in this one.
Yeah.
So we highly recommend them. And thank you so much for putting them out. I know you have a lot more than those. And they're all available on Amazon, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And then I just wanted to kind of switch gears. So we have a segment that's called Ask Allison. And Allison is my friend from Tarot by Allison on YouTube. And she does a tarot reading for us based on questions that I send her. And then we'll kind of have you elaborate and respond if that's okay. So Allison's question, she's gonna go over it now, but let's go ahead and share Allison.
Okay. Okay, here we go.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Emma. Hi, Sherri. Welcome to the Ask Allison segment. For those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Allison. I'm a tarot reader. My site is Tarot by Allison. And I've been asked to answer this question for today. Is there a progression to incarnation where incarnating as an animal is a lesser form than incarnating as a human?
Oh.
Let's try again.
Oh no.
Oh no, I was excited to hear what she was.
I know. I was like so into it. I was just like leaning in.
Okay, let's see if we can try again.
Oh. You gotta love technology.
Is this still on share screen?
Yes. Okay. It says we're offline.
Oh no.
Okay, let's try it again.
Are we back online?
Yes.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Emma. Hi, Sherri. Welcome to the Ask Allison segment. For those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Allison. I'm a tarot reader. My site is Tarot by Allison. And I've been asked to answer this question for today. Is there a progression to incarnation where incarnating as an animal is a lesser form than incarnating as a human? That's a mouthful. There's a lot going on there. So we're going to go ahead and dive into it to see if there is a hierarchy for incarnation. Okay. And I cleanse and pre-shuffle, and I ask for the strongest energies to come through before I do my readings. Okay. Let's get some cards. First card, Strength. Next card is Ten of Pentacles. The next card is the Death card. Interesting. Okay, I'm going to get some clarifiers. We've got the Six of Wands, and I'll show you those in a minute. The Hierophant. The Knight of Pentacles. The Eight of Pentacles. Six of Pentacles, a lot of earth energy coming up. And the Five of Cups. Okay, so do we incarnate? Is there a hierarchy? What I am getting is that, yes, we go through cycles. And I'll tell you why I say that. So the first card out was the Strength card. And I just feel that this is that loving energy and compassion. You see a human being kind and compassionate and loving and training this lion over and over. That is her strength, is the compassion. And I think that it looks at, I feel, what I'm getting from the vibrations of the card, is that if you are able to achieve a certain level, and let's say if you incarnate as an animal, and then that, like a progression to a human, that you have to live your life in a certain way to be able to progress. So I don't know a lot about reincarnation. I just want to tell you that right off the bat. So when I'm reading, I come in cold, and I like that because I'm going to tell you what the vibrations are. So what I'm getting is that it's a yes, and it depends on your heart strength and your heart energy is one of the things I'm getting from the cards right now. And that is a strength. And that's something that I think that you need to have to be able to then go to the next level. The Strength card, well, actually, let me back up and go to this one first before I get into the clarifiers. So then you've got the Ten of Pentacles. And what I'm getting is that when you go to these different levels, you basically have to achieve. So this is a 10. You need to have that achievement in whatever life form you're in before you can move on to the next level. So maybe people repeat the same cycles over and over. I do feel that this is about rebirthing yourself. This is the death card. This is about you rebirthing. So yes, we are definitely going to have this type of reincarnation, right? So going back to the strength card, it's being clarified by the Six of Wands and the Hierophant. And so what I'm getting is that, again, once you have this type of inner strength, and this is that kind of passive strength, right? This is that loving energy that you're getting like this blessing from the divine, from source. And that gives you victory. And everyone's cheering you on in pride, like you've done the right thing, like you've achieved what you've needed to achieve in that life. And that this is really coming from source, that you've tapped into that. It's about a loving vibration. It's all about love, is what I'm getting goosebumps right now just saying that. It's all about love. And then so when we get over here to the 10 of Pentacles, it's being clarified by the Knight of Pentacles and the 8 of Pentacles. And again, this is a slow moving energy. And this is about you doing that meticulous work to get to that 10, to move to the next level. You've got to do that work. And again, he's got the knowledge and the wisdom to really be able to make these changes. But this is slow and steady wins the race. So this is kind of like a culmination of a lifetime. It's not that, maybe you're a bad person and then you kind of, I hate to use this word, it's such a loaded word, but let's say you repent at the end, but you had this horrible life. Sorry, that's not good enough. You've had to have done better deeds leading up to it. It's a culmination of everything that you've done to be able to move on to the next level, is what I'm getting from the cards. And then the next one was the death card. So, this is reincarnation, rebirthing, that it definitely happens. And what I'm getting again is that this is the haves and the have-nots. Right here, he's got the knowledge, the power, and the resources to make it happen. So he is giving of people because he has the compassion in his heart to be able to share. And he knows that it could even be him at one time being the have-not. So with this energy, again, this is about how you're conducting your life. And for those of you that don't, or that you're miserable, or you're not in a loving vibration, you're going to be over here and you're going to be very miserable. This is the 5 of Cups. And you can see he's looking at the 3 cups that are spilt. If he turns around, he's got 2 full cups. This is a card about loss and about bereavement and about just, total heartbreak. But if he turns around, this is the card of gratitude and that loving energy. And it's how you interpret the situation that you're in, how you handle yourself, what your perspective is. But it's not just an intellectual movement. It's also emotional, and it's in your heart. So it has to be a deep connection to a loving energy. Like you can't fake it to make it, right? You really have to feel into it. It has to be sincere. And that's what's going on here. This is a very sincere energy, and that's allowing you to go and transition into the next life. So yes, I believe that there is a hierarchy and that it is allowing you to go ahead and keep going up into different levels. So very interesting. So the cards have spoken. I love it. So that was a quick one for today. And I just wanted to extend this to everybody. For all the viewers out there, I'd like to extend a 20% discount on any personal reading with me. And this is going to be for anyone, whether you're a new client or a returning client, it doesn't matter. The code is going to be Deep Dives. So for deep dives in the desert. So if you're interested, go ahead and go to my website. The link will be in the description below. And if you have any questions, you can also shoot me an email. All right. Well, that's what I have for you for today. Sending everybody lots of love. Bye for now.
She's cute. I love her.
Okay.
All right. So what did you think about that?
She's fantastic. Oh my God. I used to read tarot cards back in the day, and it just brought me back. I haven't done it in so long, so it was kind of fun watching her because I was like, oh yeah, like I used to do that, and it was so much fun. So
We do it a little bit too. Yeah, we like it.
Yeah, I'm a little rusty, but so I want to say again, there's never a right or wrong answer, and I think she read the cards absolutely beautifully. And yes, she was right in her interpretation. So instead, what I'm going to offer is my or another perspective. Let's just say, because yes, she is right. Again, there's no right or wrong. In the book, Emma, that you're reading, Starseeds and the Great Awakening, I have a whole section on animals, and I think I talk about this actually. And spoiler alert, my 5th book is about animals. So that's
Yay!
yeah, because I worked with animals for 20 years. I have a lot to say. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna take a break because my son's like, if you write another book, Mom. So I promised I was gonna take a break. But anyways, let me get to my point. Okay. What I have learned, I'm going to share with you what I've learned doing animal communication for many years, working with animals. This is the perspective I have. Just like there are starseeds that come into the planet that are ascended and evolved, that are coming to help humanity. There are the same starseeds that volunteer. Let's just talk about domestic pets first. That volunteer to come to this planet to incarnate as an animal for the purpose of being our companions. So they are just as evolved as any other incredible ascended being, and they have already evolved, many of which have evolved out of a body, and they are in life form 9th, 10th density. And they are so loving that they say to the soul that they know, I'm going to come in to your life during this period that is predetermined, and I'm going to be in your life for 10 years, 12 years, whatever the amount. And I am going to be your unconditional support system that you can hug and snuggle and pet and love and feel and touch. And you're going to feel my unconditional love and support. So many of, if not majority of the pets on the planet right now have soul contracts with their people to come into their life, and they are souls that know each other. So I have 3 animals in my house. I know all 3 of the souls of these animals that are not accidentally in my home. They came in and they incarnated in those 3 forms, Doberman, Golden Retriever, and a Sphinx cat, to be here with us and play different roles. So the Doberman is a companion for my husband. The Sphinx is a Lyran soul connected to me to help me with my spiritual hygiene and protection and many things. The Golden is a family dog. She's here for everybody to make sure that we stay grounded as a group. And there's a lot of love. So all of the animals that we have had throughout our life are soul contracts, just like you 2 have a soul contract of mother and daughter. All of the pets that we have had in our life have had a soul contract with us to be with us, simply just to be a support beacon, because it's lovely that we all have angels and spirit guides. But if you can't see them, touch them, feel them, hug them when you're sad, it's really hard for us as the humans, from our perspective, to benefit from their presence, because we don't know that they're there half the time. But when you have a lovely dog that you're their world, and every time you walk in the house, they need to lick you and love you and lay on your lap, and they give you so much love, no matter what mood you're in, there's nothing that beats that. So the soul contracts with our animals are very complicated, and there's so much more I can say about it. I mean, I could talk for another hour just about animals. You could ask me anything. But that's the basics. So they're here as evolved beings to be in our life to help us through different phases. And that's why they come in for short periods of time, because they're so high frequency. They choose to come in for short durations, because that's what you need at that time. That's what you needed. That's what you signed up for. It gets a little bit complicated when there are families that share animals, because they could have split soul contracts to be with you for a certain amount of years, and then your son moves away, he got a job. Now next thing, mom has son's dog, or stranger, or neighbor, or the neighbor down the street. You move and the neighbor takes the cat. That was predetermined. You think it's an accident, but it isn't. Now the cat's going to the next person that they have a soul contract with. Dogs and cats can also do walk-ins. So the soul of the cat that I have now is with me, and then he might decide to leave and we're done. And then another soul enters, and then it ends up with the neighbor, and another soul comes through. So this is very complicated, but to answer your question, yes, but also this. So there's so much more.
No, it totally resonates what you're saying too, because we can use Commander as an example, and Dobby, and even my cat. Like at some point, like we just ended up rescuing them, and they just kind of popped up when we least expected it.
The two dogs are both of two of my
brothers,
sons' dogs that we ended up with. They ended up being at grandma's, but yeah, they belonged to my sons at one time. But Commander's our newest.
Yeah, and there's been a few times where my brother's like, "Yeah, you can just take him, because he's in the Army and he's busy, and all of that." And then we're like, "Okay, well, it just didn't work out." And then this last time, I just had a feeling, I'm like, he's gonna stay with us, watch, and now he's with us. So it was meant to be.
I mean, and they also take on our illness too. So unfortunately, a lot of animals are crossing over in the last 3 to 5 years, and they have a soul contract too, because as we ascend as humans, like our souls are ascended, but if we want to ascend in the human form as a collective, our bodies are going through a lot of changes, and we are transmuting so many traumas for ourselves, our ancestors, for our families, so much. Our bodies are going through so much, and we are taking on too much, and sometimes our bodies can't handle it. So another soul contract we have is our pets will come into our life, sometimes with the sole and only purpose to take our cancer or to take our illness, and they will die. They will literally come in like angels, take our illness, pass away, and now so that we get to live. So this is where it gets complicated and people get really sad. But the only thing I can say to that is, yes, it is painful. But when you look at it in that way and say, give them thanks and say, thank you so much for sacrificing your life for me. And now you can take that as, okay, I'm going to make changes in my life so that it doesn't go in vain, so that they didn't sacrifice their life for nothing. And now I get a second chance in life. So I'm going to do better this time. I'm going to grow. I'm going to evolve. And so the lengths that they can go to help us is not just being in our house and being cute. Like they do so much more.
Yeah, I had a question too. I just thought of it. So if you have let's say a family pet and then they pass away, could that same soul come back to you through another pet as well?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. My cat, the Sphinx, is the same Sphinx that I had before. And he waited about 6 or 7 years to come, and now he's here again. So yeah, they can reincarnate.
Oh, that makes me happy. Just the reason why I'm asking is because I had a cat growing up. His name was Ramses, and we grew up as babies together, and he was like the love of my life. And then we lost both of my dogs and my cat in the span of a year. And then I was just so sad and depressed. And then come 2020, I was looking for a cat, couldn't find it. And then anyway, I ended up getting Finn, and I just looked at him and I told my mom, I was like, I feel like this is Ramses come back to me. It's just, I feel like I know him. I recognize him, and he just makes me feel so whole and happy. And I don't know, there's like a tug to him. So that makes me happy.
I just got such goosebumps right now. So that probably means that your soul recognized, you just knew. And they can come back. Sometimes they come back 3-4 times.
Speaking about animals, one of the questions I always wanted to ask you, and even when we were at the conference, I meant to ask you, and then I forgot. I was like, darn it. But I wanted to ask you because you used to work at the zoo, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So what would you say was the most exotic or cool kind of animal that you got to communicate with? And then I wanted to follow up with, were there any animals that you found you couldn't communicate with? Like where there's just nothing really there, or they were so different from us that you couldn't do it?
Good question. I'm not saying this out of ego or arrogance, but no, I don't think I can think of an animal that I wasn't able to communicate with in some way, because they want to communicate with us. And I teach animal communication for a reason, because I'm like, it's a gateway class in telepathy. Like they are so easy to communicate with them. They are so willing, and they can drop their frequency to match ours. in a way that like the angelics can't, for example. So they're really easy to communicate with. So most of the time we don't realize we're communicating with our animal or animals in nature because it comes through as our own thoughts. So I can't really think of anyone that I couldn't communicate with. That doesn't mean that I communicated with everyone. I didn't try. I mean, there was hundreds of animals at that zoo, but probably my favorites were the lions and the gorillas. The gorillas because so I was a vet tech. So that what that means is I was a nurse and I worked in the hospital. So I wasn't like I wasn't a husbandry. I didn't work it with the animals as their caretaker. I worked in the hospital and we would rotate and we would do physical exams, or we would have rotations, or I would go and maybe give animals their medications or take blood from a cheetah from their tail or whatever. Like we did lots of different things. But when I had to do procedures, annual exams on the gorillas was the scariest thing I've ever done, because we had to dart them and go in their enclosure, poke at them to make sure they're asleep, and intubate them right there. It takes about 5 people to position them, open their mouth, put an endotracheal tube, tie it in, while another vet tech is putting an IV catheter, securing it, all the while, and making sure that they are sedated. Like, there's so many aspects of it. Then it takes like 7 or 8 people to gurney them, carry them out into a vet van. And then I was the one in the back seat with the vet.
Oh my gosh.
I was the one in the back seat with the veterinarian and the gorilla on their back. And I'm responsible, to make sure they don't wake up. So I'm the vet's there in case I need them, but like it's my job. So I'm holding the gorilla's the way that you can tell if a gorilla is waking up from anesthesia, because they're very much human. You hold their hand like this, and if you feel any squeeze or movement ever, you got to turn that ISO up real quick. But I mean, there are other things. We monitor heart rate and blood pressure and breathing. I mean, there's more, but that was like that was, everyone knew you needed some. So basically, I'm scared shitless. And I'm in my early 20s. I don't know what the heck's happening. Like, I'm scared. I'm holding this gorilla's hand and I'm like, please don't kill me. Please don't kill me. Because they'll rip your arm off in a second. I mean, it's like nothing. So I remember after I got over those fears and I realized, oh, this isn't too bad. And I loved it. Oh, after years of doing that, I calmed down and I would do Reiki on them to help with their blood pressure and all of this. And while I was doing that, I started to communicate with them. And then next thing you know, I'm in like the astral realm with the soul of the gorilla. And we're like frolic. I know this is crazy. I've never told anybody about this. Because I'm like, they're going to think I'm insane. The people at the zoo. So I never said it. But I'm like frolicking in like this meadow with the gorilla soul, while my human self is in the surgery unit now, making sure that the gorilla stays alive and under anesthesia. But my mind is someplace else. Wow. And I used to have the most amazing conversations with these gorillas, and I learned so much about the animal kingdom. So it wasn't so much me learning about gorillas. They taught me about the animal kingdom, and so much. And you'll read it in the Starseeds and the Great Awakening about sacred species, and all of that comes from a lot of that, and communicating with elephants. I learned a lot from elephants as well.
This is my favorite story I've ever heard.
Like, I know. I'm like so excited. I have so many more questions.
Oh my God. I can't please write this book.
Yes.
Like, I know you're
I know. I will. I have so much to tell. I will. I'm going to write this book.
Oh my gosh. I just loved that story so much. Thank you for sharing that. Did you have anything that you wanted to ask about? I know you had a question or two about Starseeds before we wrap up.
Oh gosh, where do I start? Nothing. Just it comes back to my sister. Like I had mentioned in a previous episode, I just felt like she just was so different when she was born. Like she's just like this bright little light and everything. So, see, now I can't even think of it.
Well, she's 14. Yeah. So I guess, what would you, I know you don't know her, but what would you think would be kind of, where Gigi is with
I guess what category she would fall under? Would it be like crystal, like you mentioned earlier, or?
I mean, I'd have to get a little bit more information, because although there are average ages, there are
Mhm.
always those that are before or after. So like crystals tend to be late teens, 20s and early 30s. Stars are like 5 to early 20s. There's an overlap. And then rainbows are still coming in and they're up to like 10 or 12. How old is she?
14.
14. So she would technically, as far as age, fall into the star and or rainbow category as the closest. But I mean, it's just her personality is really like, if you're a crystal, they're loving, compassionate, easygoing, peacemakers. They don't get into trouble. They follow what their parents say because they just want everyone to be happy. They're highly sensitive, highly intuitive, highly creative, love nature, love animals, and are very soft-spoken. They can be introverted or extroverted. And then stars are more rebellious. They don't take no for it. They're like a little step up from that. Like, no, I'm not going to take no for an answer, but you need to talk me through it. They're a little bit more logical, analytical, more introverted. They don't play well with others sometimes because they don't feel like people understand who they are. They're more innovative. They're more engineer mind. And then the rainbows are a collection of the indigo stars and crystals. And they are a little bit of everything. They're rebellious, but also very compassionate. They're peacemakers, but they're not afraid to stand up for themselves. They're free thinkers, but respectful sometimes. Like it just, I have to get more information.
I think that's
her epitome.
You
exactly.
described Crystal is definitely Emma. And then the next one that you said was the stars. That sounds like
my nephews.
Two of my I don't know if all 4 of them, but 2 of my nephews for sure. 2 of my grandsons. And then the last one that you said, that sounds like Gigi. Gigi is the sweetest.
The epitome of the rainbow.
She is the sweetest thing ever. She's loving, compassionate. She loves animals. I remember she was like 2 or 3 years old, and I got a National Geographic or something. And anyway, it showed a rhinoceros, and they were talking about people cutting off their horn. And she was little. Like, I didn't even know that she understood what was happening. And she came up to me and she was looking at it, and she kind of grabbed me and she was like, "Help them, mommy, please help them." And I was just like, oh my God. I felt like I traumatized her because she got so upset and she didn't let it go. It was like, she kept asking me, like, did you do, like, what'd you do? Did you help it? And anyway, she's just always been that way. She's so sweet and loving, but she's also a little, she's like, how do you explain her? She teases and she's, so yeah, I think she's rainbow, and she'll stick up for herself for sure.
Oh, for sure.
I homeschooled her, and then she decided that she wanted to,
look who's here. Here's our little Starseed.
We're still recording. But anyway, she decided that she wants to be a teacher, but she decided that she wants to go. And she said, "Don't worry, mommy, I'm going to be a teacher for the new way we do things. I'm going to be," and I thought to myself, like, okay, so if that's what she wants to do, I have to get her in the school system so that she can just trust and know that she's going to get what she needs to do it the right way. And so she was in 8th grade. I put her this last year. They had already started the school year, but I kind of told them, like, she needs to get into testing and stuff. She wants to go. Well, anyway, fast forward, she was accepted into the special program. It's a teaching program for high school students, and they actually are going to work with little ones. They have an actual kindergarten class and stuff that's there. But being with me and doing that stuff, she tells me all the time, like, "Don't worry, mommy, I'm not going to get indoctrinated. I'm going to be the new teacher that comes in and we do it the other way."
That.
Yeah.
I love that.
So we'll see. Oh, she's shy.
She's shy now. No, but she loves kids. Like, even when she was little, she always like left the big kids and wanted to go to the little kids. She's very nurturing. She's always in her heart space with that. So she would be perfect for the job. But
absolutely. We need souls like you to come in and be the new wave of mentor. I call them mentors. I think we should change the language. So we don't want schools. We want centers, no teachers. We have mentors, no curriculum. It's just more kind of just natural gravity. My dog is barking in the background.
That's okay.
That's the Doberman bark. It's like classic bark, high pitched bark. But I broke it down in that was a lot of what my last book was about, is the different, the whole first part of my last book, Starseeds and the Great Awakening, was talking about starseeds, the different types of starseeds, different soul groups. And then in the end of the book, I talk about the New Earth education. And we need volunteers to be mentors to help the next generation of children.
Yes.
With new thinking.
When she found out that you were doing that and that you were going to be having this, she told me, she was like, can I go? Is it here? Can I go to it? I'm like, no, she's going to be building it in Florida probably first. And she was like, oh man, she wanted to go.
I know it breaks my heart because I work with children all over the world that are, young toddler age to teens, early 20s. And I've literally had children on the phone with me or Zoom crying, being like, please, Sherri, can you have a school? Can you bring your school to me? And I'm literally like dying inside because I'm just like, I want so much for them to have this, but I can't. It's like, I can't do it yet. I haven't done it yet. But I'm like, this is why they're telling us that they need it and they're asking for it. And we just have to work together to get these out more quickly. I mean, it doesn't have to be an Aramis Center. I think I inspire a lot of parents to just say, you know what? F it. I'm going to do this for myself. I'm going to try homeschooling, or I'm going to find a pod, or I'm going to make my own thing. Yeah, we need that. We need that so that we can have them everywhere faster. But it breaks my heart because I literally have a client that I've become friends with, and they come to visit me a couple times a year. They live in another state, and his son oftentimes cries at home and says, when is Sherri's school going to be open? I can't take it anymore. And it just kills me every time she tells me that, because I'm like, I'm trying so hard, but
well, anyway, we loved this. This was so great. Thank you so much for coming on our show, our little channel. We really appreciate it.
I had so much fun. Thank you. It was an honor for me to be invited, and I would love to come back anytime.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sherri. It was a pleasure meeting you finally, too.
Yes, thanks for having me. It was nice to meet all of you.
Yeah. You have anything to say?
She's like,
all right. Well, thank you so much. And I hope to catch up with you again. And, let us know when you're going to start that book.
Yes,
I can't wait to see that one.
Pre-ordering that.
Definitely.
Well, I need to get started. I'll give my son a couple months, and then I'll sneak it on the side, and I'll just start typing it late night.
There you go.
Sounds good. Well, thank you, Sherri.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Bye.